There's already one football coach out there in the Big Ten that put his plan for how he wants to see a possible spring football season, and that's Jeff Brohm at Purdue. He heard the news. He obviously was devastated like a lot of the other coaches, but he already started thinking, he had that brain turning, and he said, how can we make a spring season work? So here's his plan. He put it out last year. I want to read it to you and get your thoughts on whether spring football is feasible. So Jeff Brohm's plan is to have 8 games. The season would start February 27th. So the last week of February, the regular season would conclude April 17th, and you have the postseason finished by May 15th. So I'm assuming he would have a playoff system. I'm not sure how many bowls he would want to have. But you figure, there's some sort of postseason done by May 15th. So essentially the season starts February 27th, ends May 15th. So that's what, 3 months? February, March, April, May. 3-month season. Then not only, so you take it a step further. So February 27th to May 15th. Then the fall 21 season, would be delayed 1 month. So he would start the fall 2021 season on October 2nd. There's only 10 games. So Jeff Brohm, 8 games starts February 27th, push the fall 2021 season back to October, and have a 10-game long 2021 regular season. Now, I like Jeff Brohm. I think he's a great coach at Purdue. I think he's a great fit for Purdue. I love his intensity. I love his out-of-the-box and creativity thinking when it comes to trying to make a spring football season work. And I like that he already is not dwelling on the season being canceled. He's already looking forward and trying to ensure that some sort of season is played this calendar year. But Jeff, well, I love you. Again, I love the creativity. I love the go-getting, being a go-getter. I don't think this plan is feasible for a few reasons, and here's why. Number one, we heard the main concern about a spring season. I would agree, player safety. All right, so now if you have Jeff Brohm's plan, you're going to play 8 games in the spring, 10 games in the fall, at least for the teams that don't make the postseason, don't even make a bowl, they'll be playing 18 games in a 10-month span, February to November. And while sure, you can cite spring practice, an 8-game season could mimic what spring football is like. Regular season football in the spring and spring practice is 2 totally different things. They're not even comparable. Games are just flat out more intense. Games are more physical. And you think about it, spring practice, part of the spring practice, part of it, why it's there, so you have a lot of young players, a lot of players that maybe now were behind in the depth chart, 2nd, 3rd, 4th string. That now, because of graduation, because of players going early, because of injuries, they are going to have legitimate time coming up this fall. It's reps for them to show them what they have, give the coaches a glimpse of really what the depth and the talent they have at the lower positions. It's sort of being a showing out for the rest of the roster. So more than ever, spring football, you split a lot of reps. It's not the first team running 100 plays every practice. Spring practice is only 14, 15 practices. And the spring game, no big player ever plays. Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence isn't suiting up in the spring game in April. So a spring football season is not anything close to what spring football is normally like. So I hate that comparison. Player safety is a real concern. And again, 18 games in a 10-month span for the worst teams. Not counting conference championships, not counting playoff, not counting bowls. Minimum 18 games in a 10-month season. To me, that's too much. Player safety should be a real concern. That's too many games in a short amount of time for a sport that's extremely physical and extremely dangerous. Not to mention, let's just talk from a strictly logistical perspective. Right? Let's not lose sight of the fact that the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC are still planning on playing this fall. So what's going to happen next fall when Jeff Brohm's plan is to, again, delay the season for the Big Ten by a month? So instead of starting Labor Day weekend in 2021, he wants to start October 2nd and only play 10 games. Well, what's going to happen next year if the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12 start their season, let's say they finish, or maybe don't finish, but get close enough to where, the season couldn't get completed, but they played enough games. They're not going to try in the fall. They only play, let's say, 8 or 9 games, and they're just going to wait for the fall of 2021 to kind of get a full season back. Well, I can promise you this. The ACC, the SEC, the Big 12 is not delaying their season a month, and they are not losing or chopping 2 games off their schedule. So what's going to happen with the Big Ten basically playing their own season for the 2nd straight year? It's going to be 2 straight years now. The Big Ten is going to be on their own. Well, everyone, other conferences do their own thing. So to me, looking at 2020 already being very disjointed, if any teams play, Right now, you have three of the five main power conferences trying to play. It's disjointed whether the Pac-12 tries to do a spring, whether the Big Ten tries to do a spring. The fall's already lost. I don't want fall of 2021 also being disjointed. I don't. I'm sorry. I'd rather minimize the amount of change, minimize the impacts of the coronavirus to this year and this year alone. So sure, while maybe a lot of seniors would really benefit from a spring season, maybe great for guys to get one last run in that uniform. By doing so, you already impact the 2021 fall season, and for me, that should not be touched. That season is more important than ever because schools have to make up a lot of money that's already lost. So I hate the idea of delaying the season a month, playing 2 less games than everyone else. Not to mention, I'm not sure what's going to happen with the non-conference games. You have great matchups. You have Penn State, Auburn next year. That's lost if you just delay the season into October and only play 10 games. So I don't like having 2020 disjointed. I don't want to see 2021 be chaotic, be a mess, be disjointed by having the Big Ten play 10 games, start a month later, but you have the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, and who knows, if the Pac-12 doesn't play spring football and they just want to wait till the fall, they're not waiting a month either. So you could have 4 of the 5 power conferences playing a normal fall schedule in 2021, and the Big Ten will be delayed by a month playing less games. Not to mention, is a spring season even worth it? There's no championship to play for. Like I said, right now, if things stay the way they are, the Big Ten is the only conference so far, maybe the Pac-12, to play spring football. So even let's just say the Pac-12 does play spring football, is it worth messing up, delaying, and really creating chaos for a 2021 fall schedule if there's no championship to play for? You're not going to be a national champion, and the only other team you could play in a bowl game maybe is a Pac-12 team. That a season no one's going to recognize. And it's really, again, only going to hurt you more than it helps you. So that's a major flaw for me in this plan that Jeff Brohm laid out. And finally, my last plan here, or my last thought, I should say, of the reason why I don't like Jeff Brohm's 8-game spring college football plan that starts in February, ends in May, is that, look, let's just be honest here. Let's be real. These conferences, the NCAA, had 5 months from March to August to look at the landscape of the country, develop plans, and more plans to say, here's how we can get it done. If this plan doesn't work, we'll go to this plan, then we'll go to this plan. We'll try different strategies to make sure we get a fall football season in. And what happened? What happened? We watched in front of our eyes. Chaos ensued. One conference is doing this. Another conference is doing this. These doctors are telling the conferences to do this. Other doctors are telling the conferences, oh, you're okay, you could play. These doctors are saying, oh, you can't play. It's 5 conferences and really all of college football, like chickens with their head cut off, running all over the place. Information is different. Plans are different. The Big Ten's announcing conference-only season right before they say, oh, we're not going to do anything. Drastic boom. And then they announce make an announcement about their season and their schedule that throws everyone else off, shocks everyone else. So in short, it's been a mess. It's been chaotic, and really no one had a plan. No one had a plan. So looking at that, seeing just how chaotic getting to this point was, I don't want another distraction that could possibly, again, throw off the fall 2021 season. They had 5 months to get on the same page, to put a unified message out, or at least try together to have a plan to get a season in. They couldn't do it. So I'll be honest, I don't trust, now that schools are back in session, now that there's other sports to worry about, there's a lot of distractions going on. I don't want to add another one by putting spring football and making it their focus. I rather wish that they just forget spring football, focus on fall 2021, and make sure and try your hardest that it is close to normal. 12 games, you have all the non-conference games we're used to, and try to make it college football as we, the fans, love it. For fall 2021, make that the priority. Make that the focus. 2021's already lost. Whether teams play or not, whether we have any football, even if 3 of the 5 Power 5 conferences play, it's still not the same. Let's just contain this mess, this disaster, to 2020. I don't want to see fall of 2021 affected. I really don't. That's my main motivation. If you're telling me right now, if you just punt on 2020, forget the spring football idea, and just get ready and gear up for a fall 2021 season, in doing so, there's enough testing, there's enough protocols, there's enough ideas out there to make sure and basically come to the closest possible form and version of college football as you know it, I'm in. I'm really in. So I don't want distractions. I don't want other things to get in the way of possibly having a smooth fall 2021 season. So that's why, again, Jeff Brohm, I appreciate the creativity. I really do. You know, this plan was announced within days of the conference canceling their season. So to be able to bounce back, get over it that quickly, and already start thinking ahead, I like a lot. But to be honest, I don't think it's feasible. I really don't. Jeff Brohm put out a 2021 spring football plan. 8 games, starts in late February, ends in mid-May. And not only would it be 8 games in the spring, it would also affect the next fall season, delaying it a month and only playing 10 games. So for me, because the ACC, because the SEC, because the Big 12 are pushing forward, they're trying to play. I don't want to see the fall 2021 season upset by everyone else playing on time, the Big Ten starting a month later, having scheduling mishaps happen again by non-conference games being canceled. I just want fall 2021. I think I could speak for a lot of people on this. I want fall 2021 to be as normal as possible. 12 games, non-conference, conference games, the whole schedule, hopefully, fingers crossed, fans in the stands. So for me, at least, I would try to gear up for as much as that as possible. And having a fall season, at least if they follow Jeff Brohm's plan, would delay that a month and only play 10 games. So that's why I'm not on board. I'd rather keep fall 2021 the same as possible. Now, one aspect we didn't get into, and do want to get into here in upcoming shows, because I think it's a topic we really got to dive into a lot. And this is looking at it from the NFL perspective. Because Roxana Renata Ashley Bella, mouthful. But Roxana, we appreciate you listening. She writes it on Facebook, what about the NFL draft? How will that mess it up? Now, that's really interesting, because there's a lot of different areas to look at. If there is spring football by the Big Ten, I think we've seen this. The NFL, first of all, looking from the draft perspective, the NFL is business as usual. Now, I think they will delay if there's enough momentum for a spring season to where, let's just say it's not the Big Ten. Let's just say the Pac-12 plays and maybe even a few other conferences end up canceling their season. They want to play some sort of spring season. I think the NFL would delay their draft. It would be in late April. I think they would push it maybe to June. Now, the issue is you can't delay too much more than that. You know, you got to have players and rookies get to the facility. So I don't think the NFL would delay their draft much longer than sometime in June. So that gives basically college football a 2-month window. Now, even with that said, even if they do delay the draft to allow for a spring season, allow for the scouts to actually maybe watch players they have questions about actually play some sort of football, I do question how many players that are draft eligible that have NFL draft aspirations, I wonder how many would actually play in the spring. Because I truly think part of the other issue that I didn't touch on, but I think this is a good point here by Roxana, asking this question about the NFL draft. I think a lot of players will not take the risk. It is safer to maybe just work out for the draft, train, and even if you don't get drafted, you go undrafted, you sign with the team, your body is in a better position because you trained, you got healthy, you got stronger. You don't have that constant pounding. If these players that are going to go in the draft play in spring, let's just say they follow Jeff Brohm's spring football plan. Right, they finish, let's say mid-May, let's say late April. The draft's in June. You have 2 months to give your body a break from a season. But then guess what? You go right into football activities. You have summer workouts. You have OTAs. You have mini camps. All of a sudden, boom, training camp is in end of July. So you have what, 3 or 4 months before you're right back into the football mode? I think it's too much wear and tear. We talk about too much wear and tear for college football players playing 2 seasons in the calendar year. Imagine what it's going to be going from college football to the NFL within a calendar year and having just 2 or 3 months to recover from a season and then get back into it right away. I think it's too risky. I think it's too much. So I think really anyone with NFL draft aspirations that's eligible to play, or eligible to go to the draft, I think will leave. I don't think we'll have a lot of college football players gearing up and signing up for a spring season. So to answer your question, Roxana, I think the NFL draft could be messed up in terms of the dates and scouting, because if there's no 2020 season, you're relying on the 2019 film, and you're relying on testing numbers at the combine if there is one, assuming there is one, at pro days, again assuming there are pro days at these respective universities. So you're really putting a lot of faith in the scouts that you have on your specific NFL team, that they can do the right job, they can identify talent.